Okay.
Now, to Mr. and Mrs. Perkins's credit, they've put in some trees. Now, you know, how long that's going to last in terms of privacy, who'd know?
Well, they're Leighton Greens, so they'll probably cover that building in about 2 years.
All right, but there is a planting principle that the Land Environment Court has that says that the planting of tree screen planting isn't the panacea to privacy either.
Mhm.
There has to be a design outcome or a design solution for it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the set of stairs that you're proposing will resolve that. That's all.
Well, I guess, look, in terms of how do you resolve it, the stairs aren't going to be used all that often. It probably makes more sense to me to do something on the rear and having some screens, some sliding screens that, you know, cross that. But in terms of, you know, access from the back terrace to the swimming pool,
Yeah.
like, I understand where it was before was not good because you're basically looking straight into the neighbours. That's why we put the privacy screens on either end of the terrace.
But what about at the rear?
Sorry?
What about at the rear?
Well, maybe we can put some sliding privacy screens on there that can move.
Why sliding?
Well, then you can vary them for the light.
But does that mean keep them open?
Well, they could all be closed and open to access the stairs. They could be louvered, multiple.
And if I could just add to that, that the two concerns that are arising, particularly from the elevated height of the balcony, are privacy and the visual impact. Looking, for example, at the increase in the size of the retention tank, is that a basics requirement or something that's required from a stormwater?
Council stormwater requirement.
So that's a council requirement that it needs to. I'm just looking at where there may be opportunities for additional landscaping to provide screening within the site, not having to rely on the neighbours. In that, you know, one half of the deck is surrounded, it's a pool surrounded by paving, so there's zero landscaping, and the other side has a retention tank, which really leaves very little room for landscaping. So just wondering what opportunity there may be to not only deal with the privacy from the rear, but to provide some screening to that now almost 3 metre high building element.
Well, I guess if there was privacy screening on the pool side and landscaping along behind the retention tank.
So what, additional fencing on top of the...
Yeah, all fencing on top of there, but also screen fencing off the terrace.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Look, what measures would the proponent consider to reduce overlooking from the deck towards the Perkins property directly rear? There may well be some treatments that can be done actually on the deck itself in terms of setting back some of the activity with maybe planter boxes or pushing the balustrade back deeper into the deck. Are there any plausible design options for improving overlooking from the deck, from the perspective of the deck?
Well, I don't think planters are going to work in that location there. I think, if anything, the screening will work in terms of getting some landscaping on the side opposite the pool, like on the property. That would work. If there were, you know, basically screens where the pool end of the terrace is, that can be they're fixed, but louvers so you can get an airflow through it.
So are these things that you want to turn your mind to after you've looked at the neighbouring properties?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
I think it's important that you understand or get a, you know, as an architect, I'm sure you're aware of these things. I mean, to get a feeling for how the visual bulk is addressed from the neighbour's property. They're looking at.
Well, it was getting access to the neighbour's property is always difficult.
Well, it is, but I mean, in the circumstances, I don't think Mr. and Mrs. Power, I don't think they're here, are they?
No, certainly they're really getting access to my property, and I think the Perkins would be equally happy to try that.
But it's also quite self-evident standing on the balcony and looking
You can see from the
other
photo,
direction.
yeah, and that's why they've planted the Leighton Greens, which will do a good job over time.
I know, but I mean, it's not the neighbour's responsibility to screen your development out.
No.
So therein lies one of the dilemmas that we've got as a panel, based on the application before us today. I think we there may not be enough information for us to go forward today. Who knows? I mean, we've got to discuss that in a closed session. But if you're open to the idea of doing some further submission to us, I mean, we could probably think about that.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely open to the idea. Look,
All right.
our client's been sort of without a house for about 4 years.
Yeah, I
so
can understand
they're
your
under a lot of
clients are under
pressure.
a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Right, we accept that. We understand that, but it's a situation that we've got at the moment is that as a panel, we have to balance your client's interests as well as the public interest of the neighbours.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we didn't go into it lightly. We came and met with council before we started anything.
Right.
So in terms of what they suggested and what we came up with at that time, that was where we're at.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Barnes, do you have any?
Yes,
questions?
just one. I appreciate you're not the architect who initially designed this, but you've heard from members of the community indicating their concerns at the bulk. I just show you, that, which you've no doubt have seen, the elevations that were lodged with council. And this is the, I ask you to accept that this is from the statement of environmental effects that was lodged for the dual occupancy that's proposed at 40 Carwar Avenue. You would agree that to the layperson, particularly the neighbours, it's a substantially bigger building, and particularly it is much taller compared to the adjoining property at 44 Carwar. Do you accept that the community is entitled to, sorry, I take that back, that the neighbours that you've heard today are justifiably concerned that it does appear a lot larger than was shown in the elevations that were approved by council?
Well, look, in terms of height, it looks a lot different, but in terms of what the reality is and what the true RLs are, it's very similar. So, you know, in terms of what we're looking at there, whether that representation is incorrect, but the survey basically says, you know, there's sort of 6 mils in the parapet, so it doesn't sort of make much sense, does it?
But you accept that, you would accept that a neighbour looking at that, looking at those plans, and then look at it now, and we had an opportunity to see it today, and it is much taller, and sorry, it's higher than 44 than is depicted in the approved colour scheme.
I can't see any details.
It's obviously a flat representation.
Sure, that's true.
Where you're looking up,
That's
so you've
true.
got a different perspective on the lines.
Anyway.
And look, it is the same. The surveyor's been there and he's checked the parapet levels, so.
Just one final thing with respect to a colour palette. You turned your mind to perhaps how we can come up with a more recessive colour scheme for this building?
We actually went with the colour scheme that was approved, and that was the client's wish, but in terms of coming up with something a bit
Apart
darker
from what the
and
client wants, I'm just exploring, I want to try and explore with you whether or not a more recessive finish of the building would result in the perception that the building is not as large.
dark objects look smaller.
Well, I know people look better in black shirts than they do white ones. So I'm putting that proposition to you.
No, look, I'd have a look at that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask, what is the original approved colour scheme? Sorry, if you're aware of
It was like creamy colours,
An ochre-y,
Yeah.
creamy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is probably way out of fashion from 4 years ago anyway. So.
All right, okay. I don't think there's any further questions of the panel. Thank you. I do apologise, but you weren't registered to speak, so I wasn't aware that you were wanting to speak. So that has been resolved. And ladies and gentlemen, that now concludes the Georges River Local Planning Panel meeting of the 20th of June 2019. I thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.